Hi, I'm Tom Donahue, your host. Welcome to live election night coverage here at PEG TV, a big election night across the country and right here in Vermont and right here in Rutland County. I wanted to start with some breaking news tonight. Out of Ward 1 in Rutland City, for state representative, we have Christopher Howland with 741 votes, leading Anna Taddeo with 708 votes. So 741 votes for Christopher Howland in Ward 1 in Rutland City for state representative, and Anna Taddeo with 708 votes. That is Rutland City Godnick Center, but this ward now contains the town of Rutland, and so we'll have to wait for the town results to see how that sugars off. But just to give you some breaking news with some first tallies for state representative, in at least for the city portion of that vote. We'll get back to you with the Rutland Town results as they come in, and we'll be putting the two together and announcing a winner there. But at this point, Christopher Howland leading Anna Taddeo, 741 votes to 708. Additional breaking news, in the race for state senator in Rutland City, in that ward, which is, again, the Godnick Center, it's actually Ward, I think it's called 4 now, if I remember correctly, which is the new revised redistrict ward, which is the Rutland City District Northeast section, if you will, along with the town of Rutland. In that race for state senator, the top vote getter, Brian B.C. Collmore, top vote getter with a significant margin of 836 votes in that ward, 836 votes. The second most vote getter there, David Weeks. These are incumbents for the office of state senator, and that's 669 votes for David Weeks, followed by Marcia Castle, who is running as a Democrat in opposition to the incumbents. 643 votes for Marcia Castle, 643 votes, followed by Terry Williams with 595 votes in that ward in Rutland City, 595 votes. And then Dana Peterson with 502 votes. Dana Peterson, the Democrat, also challenging the Republicans in that ward, 502 votes, followed by Robert J. Richards with 410 votes. Now there's 3 seats in that countywide race open for with 6 candidates vying for those 3 seats. Again, top vote getter Brian B.C. Collmore, 836 votes. In second place there, this is Ward 4, which is Rutland City, northeast section, if you will, along with the town of Rutland. Now again, this is just this ward. This doesn't include the town votes yet. But David Weeks coming in second there, a strong finish with 669 votes, followed by Marcia Castle with 643 votes, followed by Terry K. Williams, 595 votes, Dana Peterson with 502 votes, and Robert J. Richards with 410. So there's some initial results right out of the gates. We're going to keep going here for a minute because we have Christ the King in, and these are pretty significant wards because it's a less area, more people when you talk about Rutland City. So we're going to go right to those. Well, in the House race, actually, Eric McGuire is not challenged, and I think that's Eric's district. So let me just flip to that. And so Eric got all 1,754 votes in this ward. But the state Senate races, again, Brian Collmore with a remarkable margin here, 1,373 votes. 1,373 votes, that's remarkable. And followed by David Weeks with 1,057 votes. 1,057 votes. Now followed by the third incumbent, Terry K. Williams, with 990 votes. Followed closely by, again, Marcia Castle, 950 votes. Dana Peterson with 742 votes. And Robert J. Richards with 618 votes. So let's do that one more time real quick now that I've got the numbers written down for myself. Brian Collmore, 1,373 votes, 1,373 for Brian Collmore. Quite a remarkable vote. Along closely followed by David Weeks with 1,057 votes. Terry K. Williams, 990 votes. Those are the three Republican current office holders, the incumbents. And then Marcia Castle, with respectable finish there right now, in fourth place with 950 votes in this city ward. And then followed again by Dana Peterson, 742 votes, and Robert J. Richards with 618 votes. So some interesting trends going there right now. Obviously, Brian Collmore coming out with somewhat of a commanding lead over the other folks that are running for the Senate. That's a county Senate seat in Rutland County. There's 3 seats, 6 people running. Now, I want to quickly just go, because we have a special guest on the program, and then we're going to get into some more statewide results, but right now we're going to kind of keep it local. The mayor of Rutland is here with me, so I'd like to welcome the mayor. And I know that you were out today.
Yeah.
I even saw you on Facebook Live for a minute.
Tried to get people out to vote. Thank you for the invite, first of all. And the goal today, since I'm not up for re-election until March, the goal today is to get people out to vote, to really kind of voice their opinions and perspectives. When you look at what November elections mean in Vermont, especially this year, right, every 2 years, we're asking the citizens to choose who they want to represent them in Montpelier and in some respects in Washington. And it's so critically important that people voice that opinion often. Things change, opinions and perspectives change. You may see policy going in one particular direction, and the public wasn't necessarily ready for that, and the opportunity to speak about that and their opportunity to voice their perspective and opinion is at these elections and say, listen, the representative that I elected last time isn't representing me well enough. I need to elect someone new, or I really like the direction things are going and I want to keep the people that we've got in place.
And that's often, which is in Vermont, and is every 2 years. So it's a quick turnaround.
It is a quick turnaround, and I think it's tough for a lot of the people that are in the room today that you'll hear from. It's tough to have to do that every 2 years, but it does provide in Vermont the opportunity to truly voice where you're coming from on the regular basis.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Mike, Mayor Dunn, what did you hear any particular issue that was on people's minds today while you're out and about?
People were, the conversations they were having with me locally was, just the normal things that I hear, but I had more opportunity to hear from them. School budgets is one of the big one, the budget overall, the tax rate. Mm-hmm. I submitted my budget on November 1st to the board. We're going to spend the next month and a half, going through it. I actually expect my board to make some cuts. I want them to make some cuts. We gave them options this time. I'd like to see that come in at a nice low level. Mm-hmm. Those are the conversations we've been having, but I think what I'm hearing most of all is that people really do want Rutland, because I'm hearing from Rutlanders, want Rutland to have that reputation in Vermont that's positive. And I got asked today more often than not, do you think the reputation of Rutland throughout the state is changing? And I do. I'm talking to people at the state level. I'm having conversations throughout all the other counties and with people in all these other counties, and I do think our reputation is headed in a great direction. So it's nice to hear that feedback, and it's great to, whoever's going to represent us this year in Montpelier, we're going to be having those conversations about how to stay on that track.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So stay right with us, because I got more questions, but I want to give you some more additional breaking news. This is what we call Ward 4, but it's Rutland 7, I guess, is kind of what we call that Calvary, voting up at Calvary. And this was the race between our incumbent William Knott and Chris Keyser, who's a local businessman. And right now in Ward 4, and this is, these are not including the town, so therefore, and they're not, so this would be the winner of this race, Chris Keyser, with 1,157 votes in Ward 4 for a state representative in that ward. Calvary is where the voting takes place. And I think there's an American Legion. Is this all part of that one, or is this just that one? So let me just go to that and see, make sure we get this right. William Knott, 837 votes. My apologies. So this is Chris Keyser with 1,157 votes to the incumbent's William Knott's 837 in that ward, Ward 4. So it looks like Chris Keyser will be the new state representative in that district for Rutland City. And now we also have another challenged race with Cindy Leskevich, which if you followed this program at all over the years, I always stumble on poor Cindy's name, and I apologize, Cindy, already. But Cindy Leskevich with 802 votes, the incumbent, Mary Howard, with 849. So the incumbent, Mary Howard, 849 votes in her ward to Cindy Leskevich's 802. So it does look like, at this point, like Mary Howard would stay in office, but we'll just have to, these are all, of course, unofficial, but pretty official. How's that sound? Unofficial, but pretty official results. In other words, we have people for PEG TV at the polls getting these numbers from the clerks when they're out there, as they're printed out, and so they should be accurate, but they're not official tallies until the state says they are. So, and City Hall says they are. But Mary Howard with 849 votes, Cindy Leskevich with 802 in that ward, which is American Legion ward. Again, this ward over at Calvary with Chris Keyser running against incumbent William Knott. Chris Keyser with 1,157 votes to William Knott's 837 votes. And then let's just go back real quick to Christ the King, a big ward in Rutland City, a very big ward. And again, Eric McGuire was running in that region of the city, so unopposed. So we won't need to talk about the results for state representative, but let me just go back to the Senate races, and we'll skip through those real quick with, again, Christ the King, Brian Collmore with 1,373 votes. Followed by David Weeks with 1,057, Terry K. Williams with 990, followed by Marcia Castle with 950, and then Dana Peterson with 742 votes, and Robert Richards with 618. And then we're going to jump right over to the Godnick Center, the other big ward in Rutland City. And again, Godnick Center, Brian Collmore with 836 votes. Followed by David Weeks with 669 votes, followed by Marcia Castle with 643 votes, and then Terry K. Williams with 595 votes, Dana Peterson 502 votes, and Robert Richards with 410 votes. So that is 3 available seats, if you will, with 3 incumbents running and 3 challengers, so 6 people running for 3 seats. And that's county-wide for a state senate, so these are just scratching the surface, of course, with Rutland City votes, but might give you a flavor for how the evening's beginning to unfold, with the exception of the state representatives where they're running for that ward, with the exception of the vote with Christopher Howland and Anatadio, which is including the town of Rutland. We don't have that to put together yet with Rutland City's reporting in ward, but when we do, we'll bring that to you. In the meantime, and I'm going to go back to that, Christopher Howland is leading, at least in the Godnick Center vote, 741 votes, closely followed by Anatadio with 708 votes. So definitely the town tallies will matter. I know Christopher Howland is a resident of the town. I don't know if that'll influence that or not. And Anatadio, a resident of Rutland City, so we'll see. That'll be a very interesting one as it unfolds. Anything new? Let's see. American Legion, let's just go back and make sure I did that one. And again, that was for the state senate. We have, again, Brian Collmore, top vote getter with 904 votes. 904 for Brian Collmore. And followed this time, it appears, by Marcia Castle with 693 votes. Terry K. Williams with 659 votes. David Weeks with 731 votes, followed by Terry K. Williams with 659 votes. So that's third, fourth. In fifth, Dana Peterson, and sixth, Robert Richards Dana Peterson, 533 votes, and Robert Richards with 470. So let's run through that now that I got them numbered properly. Brian Collmore, 904 votes, top vote getter there again. And Marcia Castle with 693 votes. David Weeks with 731 votes. Terry K. Williams with 659 votes. Dana Peterson with 533 votes, and Robert Richards with 470 votes. Keep in mind, of course, this is a town with about a county with about 27 towns. Depending on how the districting goes, it's roughly 27 towns, and it's a countywide race for Senate. So these are the city numbers only, and they will definitely be influenced by a number of different towns that may be reporting in very slowly throughout the evening. But these numbers could change significantly as the time goes on and all of those other towns report in. So, make what you will out of the city results for the countywide races, but at least it gives you a flavor for how the evening's going. So, Mayor, you mentioned March, so I just wanted to ask you, are you running for re-election?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'll be running for re-election, Tom. I'm, we were just talking about the two-year term limits, and I'll tell you, it is hard to get a lot done in a 2-year period. You just start getting the momentum going, and there's a lot that we've gotten moving, and it's been fantastic, and I want to see that through. I really want to work through the process, make sure we take our housing initiatives and our city vision initiatives to the next level. We've got a lot going on right now throughout the city. If you look at what's happening downtown with the new potential hotel coming in, the city has a lot of responsibility around that. We look at what's happening in other communities around us and the opportunities that we have to capture those things. So the development up in Killington, Rutland has a real play in that. The fact that Walmart's going to be moving from downtown to the Diamond River Mall area. That gives us more opportunity to bring in other things for that space, and we want to stay hyper focused on that growth and the economic development of the city. And in order to do that, we need to keep the momentum that we've started going. So it wouldn't be right not to put my name up again and keep working towards those goals.
Okay. Well, and something that I've never seen before, but I saw signs popping up around today for March 2025, and that was Henry Heck.
Yeah.
So he is on a cycle with aldermen to be up for re-election in 26. So I'm assuming that I'm deciphering from that maybe that he's planning on running for mayor. I have not talked to him, but the signs certainly indicated that might be what they were trying to suggest with the signs being out today.
Yeah, I heard through the grapevine that he announced today via Facebook, I believe, that he'll be running for mayor as well. So it'll be a good competition, and we'll be discussing throughout the next few months as we approach March. Each of our initiatives and our goals and our visions and the focus of what our administrations would do. Both of us have different experiences coming from different directions, so it'll be an interesting conversation as we approach the election in March. Yeah.
Clearly, I wasn't on Facebook enough today to catch that, so
yeah.
I apologize for it. But the signs were certainly a surprise to see because I've never seen that approach before. But.
Yeah, he actually said to me, he's like, unique approach. He doesn't think anybody's done it.
I don't think so either. Yeah. All my years in this business. Yeah. So, anyway, listen, I want to thank you, Mayor, very much for coming on. I know you're probably going to make your way around tonight, and I thank you for what you're doing and coming on to PEG TV with us. And you're good to do that and give up your time to be with us tonight. And I appreciate what you're willing to put yourself out there for election. I always say that to every candidate, no matter what stripe, because how hard it is to run for office. And I appreciate everybody who does. It's pretty significant.
I appreciate that, Tom. It's a tough process. It's a tough job, but I think everybody who does this is passionate about it, and I think that's what makes the difference. I think that we get there.
Agreed. Yeah. We're very lucky. We have a lot of great candidates.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you for having me, and thanks to PEG TV for doing this every year. What an amazing resource to have these guys and gals working on this every year.
You got it. Best in the state, I say.
Yeah. Thank you for volunteering tonight, too, by the way.
My unpaid job. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much,
Thanks
Tom.
for coming on. We'll see you soon.
See you soon.
We are going to have some more guests real quick, but let me just give you a couple of results. A little more breaking news, as we like to say, here at PEG TV for tonight. We have the town of Pollitt in. And we'll go to let's start with the state representatives race because you had a challenger there to Robin Chestnut Tangerman, who is the incumbent, the Democratic incumbent. And Chris Pritchard, right now, in this Pollitt ballot, let's say, is leading by a significant margin there in the town of Pollitt for the Republican candidate for the state representative. Now, this just represents one town in that little area over there, west of Rutland, and that's Chris Pritchard, 511 votes. Chris Pritchard, 511 votes. Robin Chestnut Tangerman, who is the incumbent, 393 votes, 393. And then 11 write-ins. So we don't know who those are, but 11 write-ins. Additionally, in the Senate, we're going to try to get these in the right order now. They're much closer, smaller numbers than Rutland City, as you can imagine. But it looks like the top vote getter there is Terry K. Williams with 442 votes. Terry K. Williams with 442 votes, followed by Marcia Castle, who had 371 votes in the town of Pollitt, 371 votes, followed by very close finish for third and fourth, but third would go to Brian Collmore, Brian B.C. Collmore, with 364 votes in the town of Pollitt. And the next very, very close to that, David Weeks with 362 votes, just two behind Collmore, 362 votes for David Weeks. And then followed by Dana Peterson, again, which is consistent with Robert Richards, fourth and, that would be fifth and sixth. 325 votes for Dana Peterson and 313 votes for Robert J. Richards. So again, your top vote getter would be in the town of Pollitt, Terry K. Williams, followed by Marcia Castle, followed by Brian Collmore, and then David Weeks, very close behind Collmore by just 2 votes, and then Dana Peterson and Robert Richards. So that is some of the breaking news from the town of Pollitt tonight. And we'll just keep these, and we appreciate all the clerks out there, by the way, providing these results, and the team from PEG TV that are out there in the field getting the results for us so we can report them directly to you. We appreciate the mayor coming in for a few minutes, Michael Dungis, and but we do have an opportunity to bring on some more guests. We have the incumbent, actually, delegation in the Senate for Rutland County. And so I would like to invite on the program right now Brian Collmore, David Weeks, and Terry Williams. So if you gentlemen wouldn't mind joining us here in the set, we can get some firsthand information because these folks were out campaigning. Thank you for being here, Brian. Appreciate it.
Tom,
yeah.
Tom's good to see you.
Yeah, Terry, good to see you.
Tom,
thanks for being here. David, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is great. We got the whole incumbent delegation for the Republican Party in the state of Vermont for this Rutland County. And I think I know it, give or take, because we did the redistricting, somewhere around 27 towns, but I don't remember if Pittsfield or Killington got sectioned off or not, but we're right around there. So
In the Senate, Pittsfield went to Windsor.
Okay.
And then Mount Holly, which was in Windsor, went back into Rutland.
Oh, okay. All right. So we netted. That's great. But thank you for being on. We wanted to tell you what some of the votes were coming in for Rutland City, and one small town, Pollitt. We're going to wait for the rest of them because we got what does that leave? 23 more.
Something like that. Yeah.
24 more yet before we know what the results are, and it could be a long night because there's a lot of tallying that goes on, and we appreciate all the work that they do. But what I wanted to ask you guys tonight too, because the voters want to know, and if there's any consistent messages out there that you're hearing, how people are feeling. Obviously, this was a little unusual election. We go through this one every 4 years. This was probably the most unusual maybe in our lifetimes, but not even knowing whether polls showing on the presidential level potentially a split, right down the middle. And I don't know how that affects how people were feeling when you're talking to them about how, whether they're optimistic about what you're doing, for instance, in Montpelier and how we're doing in Rutland County. And I'm just wondering, if there's any particular things that stand out for any one of you. Please feel free to chime in. And there's your microphone, by the way. Yep.
Well, I'll jump in first. I do think that the presidential race figures somewhat into what's happening in Vermont, but I do want to echo the mayor's remarks about the turnout. I think we're going to see somewhere close to 70 to 75% turnout in the state, and I think Rutland County is well on the way to being that. I know in Rutland Town at the elementary school, The clerk there told me earlier today, before they even opened the doors, they were already at 51%.
Wow.
So that means a
Okay.
lot of people voted early, a lot of
Yeah.
absentee type things.
Yeah.
And it went up from there. I think you mentioned the Godnick Center. I think they're at about 78% turnout right now. So I think that does tell us something. I think there are a lot of people that voted today that either don't normally vote or perhaps never voted. And we talked, at least I did, to a couple of folks coming out of Christ the King today who said, and they were in their 60s, have never voted before.
Wow.
But today, and I think that was based on the presidential situation. And
Yeah.
I'll let them
Wow.
tell you who they voted for. But I think there was some consternation and some frustration based on property taxes that were received by folks this year,
Okay.
along with a lot of other things that, quite frankly, have begun to make it even more unaffordable to live here. So I think people were just showing people that that's how they felt. And we're hopefully that we're going to get some balance in Montpelier and be able to work with the governor. That's how I saw things.
Terry, you look like you had some.
Well, I got out of Rutland. I spent
Yeah.
most of the day in the city, in the town. And then I got out to the Brandon, Benson, West Haven, the smaller
Sure.
communities. I
Yeah.
talked to the town clerks and the people that at the polling place. And they, give you an example, West Haven has 200 registered voters.
Okay.
And they'd already had 150 of them vote.
Wow.
And they had 2 new registrations, and it was still 5 o'clock.
Wow.
So they expected, people getting out of work.
Yeah.
Pulteney, when I got there, they were lined, it was 6:05, and they were lined up, double line,
Wow.
in the firehouse
Wow.
waiting to get in. So
Now, obviously, this is a good thing.
it is a
Yeah.
good thing, yes.
Yeah.
And a lot of write-in votes. Everybody, Fairhaven, I stopped, they were, it was fits and starts, a lot of people voting, all of a sudden, kind of overwhelming the staff there. But they're saying a lot of people didn't bring their ballots with them, and they were running out of ballots.
I went home and got mine
Yes.
because I had heard that was a thing, and so I actually went home and got mine.
Right.
So yeah, trying to at least make that tiny bit easier. But speaking of which, and what you both alluded to with the turnouts, would you say that in turnout included mail-ins?
Yes.
And,
Yes.
Yeah. So do you think that's a significant factor?
Yes.
My
I
question
do.
is,
I
guess,
do.
Yeah.
I had my own personal feelings about it when the legislation was in play. I'm a big fan of going in person to vote. I probably always
Yeah, I
will
mean,
be.
that's my way.
But I'm old school, and I understand
Yeah,
that. But
ditto.
I think it's a good thing for some folks, because it gives you a chance to actually study who you're going to vote for.
Very true.
You've got it there on your mantle or kitchen
Yep.
table or whatever, and you can, rather than going to the poll and then trying to decide, oh my gosh, there's all these names.
Yeah. However, the Rutland City had a ballot item on there that I didn't pay attention to until I got into the
Yeah.
voting booth, and then I had to read the whole thing. I should have seen it sooner. but
And
I-
we didn't see it in Rutland Town, so I don't know if it passed or not, but
So we'll find out. I actually have the numbers here. I guess we can go look, but I want to talk to David for
Yeah.
a second and see what you had been hearing when you were out there.
Well-
I know you've been out a lot.
Yeah, we've been out. And first off, I'd just like to say, I'd like to thank my colleagues. We've really run as a team, but we've worked as a team now for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
So we ran as a team, and I think that shows. But what I heard in the field was that Montpelier is out of balance, and people are looking for balance. They're looking for how that balance, how we have a supermajority and a superminority, and we're part of the superminority, how it affects the affordability of the state. And that's the groundswell that we're experiencing now with these high turnouts. I think it's a one-to-one factor. It's very clear to me.
Yeah, affordability.
Affordability.
Yeah, yeah.
And the balance in Montpelier.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they're looking for a shift. And
Yeah.
I think these are some very clear signals being sent over the numbers that you've already gone through.
Yeah, yeah.
Really do appreciate that.
Well, and it is a bottom line, they talk about the economy, but the economy has different variations and measures, and by some measures, the economy is doing really well, but by the measure of, having to go out and afford things, it doesn't feel like that.
Right.
yeah.
And so, it's really more about how it feels in your pocketbook than how it might look on paper, and that's how people are feeling right now, I think. I hear it as well.
Well, thank you very much for having us on.
Yeah, listen, it's going to be, I wish I had some more results for you. We will have them, and if you're tuning in.
Oh, we're going to tune in
Yeah, we'll
all
be
night.
listening. We'll listen.
Yeah, we're going to tune in
Tom
all night.
Leopold, the executive director, why don't you stay here for one more minute, because it looks like we might have some more results, and we've got, Pulteney youth vote. Oh, Paulette Youth Vote. Okay, so this was an unofficial vote, I take it, for, from the students? Tom's left me hanging here, but, yeah, he said, all right. Tom Leopold, ladies and gentlemen. So this was the school vote, is that what, yeah, for the students? Okay, so they did have a presidential on this one that had 15 votes for Kamala Harris and 4 votes for Donald Trump and 2 for other. And then they basically voted on what kind of book they like to read. So they just skipped right over everything else. Went right from the president to the favorite book, and mystery books won with 6 votes, and it looks like the second, well, there's a bit of a tie here between scary and animal, and then it was followed by other and historic, and last but not least, well, this is a surprise, last but not least, sports books. Yeah, and cookbooks 0. So I don't know what that means, but anyway, thanks for sharing that, Tom Leopold. Tom's the executive director here at PEG TV, and he's sharing some real cutting-edge results there. That's some breaking news. So anyway, thank you all for coming down. I know you've got a soiree to go to yourselves,
Yep.
and we'll try to get you some more results. And but in the meantime, I do have to point out, Brian, that your votes are looking pretty strong there. Yours are too, but man, this guy, huh? Just, yeah.
Well.
Show off. Thank you very much,
you,
Brian.
Tom.
Yeah.
Thank you for
thank you
doing
very
this.
much.
Thanks.
David, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thanks to PEG TV for
You
sure.
got it.
And
PEG TV is
you
the
do a great
best.
job,
I
Tom.
appreciate that. We'll see you soon. All right, there's our Rutland County Senate delegation in total, all the incumbents right now, who are all up for re-election tonight. You had choices to vote for the 3 of those folks today, or there are 3 challengers. And we're counting the results now to see how that goes, and certainly there's some respectable votes that have come in for some of the candidates tonight. And so we'll continue to try to tally those up and bring them to you as we get them. And in the meantime, I'll go back over some, for instance, let me go to the ward for the ballot question in Rutland City, which I think is on here, and I know I got a lot of paper piling up, but let's just look and see if that, so it was one question on here in one ward in the city that was kind of changing the makeup of how the board of directors is organized for the Rutland Redevelopment Authority. So on that, we've got 916 to go along with the plan for organizing the board and how they're appointed and who's appointed and so forth to the Rutland Redevelopment Authority. 916 yes to 288 no. So that looks like, I'm guessing that one's going to pass handily. Ward 3, 1,059 yes to 304 no. So I think we can say that the ballot question, and I can give you the other 2 wards, but I think it's pretty clear that the ballot question on the Redevelopment Authority board makeup in Rutland City is passed. Yep, 1,448 votes yes, 450 no in Ward 2. And then in Ward 4, this will be the icing on the cake. We have 1,276 votes for yes and 412 votes no in Ward 4. So that is going to definitely change the makeup of the board of the Rutland Redevelopment Authority, and then how they're appointed and who they represent, particularly is what was identified in that ballot question. There's only the one ballot question tonight in Rutland City. Otherwise, all candidates. And you'll find it very similar in the rest of the towns. It was almost all the same candidates, which include President, United States Senator, United States Congressperson, in this case Becca Balint, is the incumbent, and then the state senators, and really no other general questions to speak of. There are Secretary of State, State Treasurer, Lieutenant Governor, Governor, and so forth. But the only other ones that vary amongst the towns in the county would be those House of Representative races. So we're keeping an eye on those because they're quite different in the towns. Many of them are decided by multiple towns. For example, the town in the race that's going on in Rutland 2, where Art Peterson stepped down, it's 2 seats. He had 3 running, Bosch, Burdett, and Potter. That's Clarendon, West Rutland, Wallingford, Tinmouth, and part of Proctor. So, you got to wait for all those results to actually determine who wins that race. But you have Bosch, Burdett, and Potter all running, 3 people for 2 seats. And so we'll have to wait on that. That's one of those 2 seats opened up when Art Peterson has stepped down. I did want to mention some of the races that are uncontested. Jim Harrison in Killington, Bill Canfield out in Fairhaven, Patty McCoy out in Poultney, all uncontested. Eric McGuire here in Rutland City, 5. And then you have new folks potentially coming into the race. In Pittsford Proctor, Butch Shaw was stepping down, so we'll see how that one ends up. And then, as we mentioned, the race out in Middletown and Pollitt and so forth with Robin Chestnut Tangerman and Chris Pritchard. We'll see how that sugars off when we get some additional results in. And then let me just take a quick look while we're here and just see if there's anything unusual, which I'm going to guess not, in the race for governor. But I think that probably when you talk about the U.S. Senate race, the race for Congress, and the governor, I think you're going to find that it's going to be Bernie Sanders, Becca Balint, and that's what I'm seeing here, and Phil Scott with just huge margins. So I think that's how the night will go throughout the county and throughout the state of Vermont. Tom Leopold has some, this is the modern version now. We have some texted in.
Culver's phone. This is Poultney.
Okay, Town of Poultney, great.
I need the phone back.
Yep, we'll give that right back to you. Let's see, so let's just go right to Senate in the town of Poultney. And we have in first place, I'm just gonna make sure I get it right. Yep, and so first place in Poultney, Terry K. Williams, 473 votes. Followed by David Weeks with 336 votes. Closely followed by Brian Collmore with 332 votes, then followed by Marcia Castle with 220 votes, Robert Richards with 203 votes, and Dana Peterson with 181 votes. So again, Terry K. Williams would be first, David Weeks second, Brian Collmore third, Marcia Castle fourth, Dana Peterson, Robert Richards fifth and Dana Peterson sixth. That's in the town of Poultney. Okay, so now these outlying towns, you can see a little bit different trends from the city of Rutland. And then again, Patty McCoy, Patricia McCoy running unopposed for state representative in that district. And let me just look, I don't think there's anything else other than the ones I just mentioned, which, well, we can take a look at lieutenant governor, because that's a race. And John Rogers is leading in the town of Poultney, 480 votes to David Zuckerman's 220. John Rogers, 480, David Zuckerman, 229. So that's interesting. But other than that, I think, as I said, what you're going to see for U.S. Senate with Bernie Sanders, for United States Congress with Becca Balint, and for Vermont governor, the numbers that I'm seeing here are just sweeping numbers, so I don't think you're going to see too much change there. So we're going to hand that phone right back over here. Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to steal that for a second and just write down those numbers for the... I got a better idea. We're going to go high-tech here. We're going to take a picture of the picture. Okay, now we've got those numbers and we can hand the phone back. Thank you very much. That's breaking news right there. And I have another guest I want to bring on, because we have Greg Thayer is with us tonight. And Greg actually was running on a statewide basis all the way up through August for the primary. And so, Greg, come on on the set, and thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. Yeah, this is our first statewide candidate, so it's good. And I really appreciate you coming on. This has been a lot leading up to this, and I, for one, wasn't really stressed over the whole thing. You know, it's just I take these things more casually, I think, as I get older. But it seemed like there was a lot of stress today based on the national elections as to how things were going to go and how people were feeling. And then there was a lot of consternation about, you know, how's everybody going to feel tomorrow? Right. I'm not really thinking that much about it, but I did hear it a lot. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And I know you've been out and about. You did some campaigning yourself post-election. And you were all across the state of Vermont, crisscrossing all summer long as a candidate for lieutenant governor. So what were you hearing?
Well, first I want to say thank you to PEG TV, and as you know, I have a show, Conversations with Gregory here, and thank you and your team and Tom Leopold and Chelsea and all of them, you know, Rich, and your lovely wife, Gail, sitting here absorbing all this with us.
Sure.
And I brought Tammy with me, my girlfriend.
It's a great
And,
support team.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's about us all, you know, talking and having good conversations, good dialogue, and educating the people. And however they vote, we respect it, but we need to build unity in our state. There's too much infighting. There's I like to say garbage. There's too much garbage going on, and you know, we all live, work, and play here in this beautiful state. To me, it's God's best place on His green earth.
It is pretty amazing.
It is. You know, I heard a lot about affordability. I heard a lot, and I have been crisscrossing the state, helping candidates throughout after my loss for lieutenant governor in the Republican primary. But I didn't lose because I got to talk to 10,000 or so Vermonters.
Wow.
It was great, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
And I'm still out there
That's
and
amazing.
being invited to events and stuff, and I'm enjoying it. But, you know, again, we're all Vermonters first, and we need to be working together. I think, you know, there's a little bit of the supermajority, I think, has gone a little bit too far to the left, if you will. So, and I think the people will speak today. Numbers that I'm hearing, I'm receiving calls across the state from people about how the numbers are, and there's huge turnouts across the state. You know,
Yeah, and that's always a good thing.
yeah,
No
my
matter-
daughter, it's our republic, it's democracy in action. My daughter lives in Burlington. She voted 7:05 this morning, and there was a line. And she said there was tons of people there at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
that is folks that hadn't actually mailed them in.
Right.
Yeah,
And-
so think about that.
Yeah, I went to the polls. I had to do the affidavit signature, if you will, because I didn't get my ballot mailed. Tammy received hers. I didn't receive mine. So I called City Hall. They did get it returned because it was an old P.O. box.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So I went. I never went down to get it. I was just so busy, and so I went in and I called and spoke to Sarah and the clerk down there today, and they said just go down and do the affidavit. You're fine. I had my ID and everything. I was ready. I was ready because I was voting today, and you know, it's the most prized thing we get to do as Americans, and it's
Yeah, that's our
protected.
freedom.
Yeah, by the actually beautiful word, freedom.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
the constitutional freedoms we have. So, but it's been, you know, it's been good. I've met a lot of people on both sides of the aisle because I always make it a point to say hi to the other side.
Sure.
Because again,
Yeah.
we have to get along.
Yeah.
Don't agree with a lot of their policies, but I want to be able to sit across the table.
Yeah.
You know, I have some initiatives that I introduced when I was running that I'm going to keep introducing, you know, from an affordability standpoint on a statewide consumption tax, getting rid of all the property, payroll, income taxes, but also mental health. And you know, my family's, because we've been friends, Tom, forever.
Sure.
And you know, my family situation with mental health. And my father was very, very productive, but he had manic depression, you know, but he was great. He was a great dad.
Great man.
Yeah, they were great people, and I miss my parents every day. But it's a dear subject, and I think that's driving a lot of the problems we have with the drugs, the crimes, the
Yeah.
you know, not working, homelessness, and so we have to address it. But state law is pretty hard to get around, so we need to work on that. We have to make tough decisions, and we need families involved in the process. If you see something, you have to step up.
Interesting you said those things, though, like crime and drug use and homelessness and so forth, because the one thing we heard a kind of a theme was, you know, affordability and moving forward, but
Yeah.
you're the first person that actually said, put a name to some of those problems that we're facing.
Yeah, well, mental health is, I think, a huge problem in our society, and we have to address it. And we need strong people to address it. We need, you know, good, sound people to make decisions and to stand up, step up, and do it. You know, it's about common sense, right? You know, and we don't want to hurt anybody. We want to help them. We want to lift them up
Right.
and make them a productive part of society.
Now, on the national level, do you think we're going to actually see a president anytime in the next, I don't know, 12 hours, say, or are we
know-
going to be waiting a little while?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit longer. I wish it were quicker. I know there's the records are being broken in every state of turnout, and it's huge. And I
Is that what you're hearing?
Yeah.
I haven't had time to watch it, getting ready for it tonight. But
did hear a poll. I don't know if it's a poll. It wasn't an exit question, but it was something that one of the news outlets is doing, but they're not calling it an exit poll. But 7 out of 10 Americans feel, and 21,000 Americans were polled across the country, that 7 out of 10 feel the country's going in the wrong direction. So I don't know what that says in terms of Mr. Trump or Miss Harris, but it says something. And so we'll see with their votes today. I did just
you could take that either way, I guess.
right.
Yeah.
I did just see on Vermont Public, which I'm a fan of.
Okay, yeah.
They do a good work up there. That John, the gentleman who beat me, Mr. Rogers, is up, and with only 55 out of 262 towns, is up 49-42 on Lieutenant Governor Zuckerman. So
Percentage.
yeah, but Burlington may not have reported, or Brattleboro or Montpelier.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so there's a lot of unknowns right now. And
Yeah, and since you're here, we might as well take a look at that and
Yeah.
talk about
Be
some
patient,
results on
people.
it. Yeah. Because,
Tom, you're doing a great job. When did you start doing this? About 10, 12 years ago?
No, it was 20-something, actually. Yeah,
Wow.
it started out with...
Gail, you didn't know him then, did you?
Started out with Mike Valentine.
I remember that.
The great Mike Valentine.
Yeah,
and
Mikey.
It's been over a decade with John Valeni.
John-
It was
oh,
now
yeah,
Judge
you and
John
Johnny.
Valeni. So
Now it's
you
Judge
can't do these
John
things
Valeni.
anymore when you're a judge.
Yeah.
But let's see. Let me just look at where we do stand with that.
I see
that
the
one,
governor
because-
was it's like 72 to 16%.
Yeah, so in this one, this is Ward, we'll still call Ward 1. I think these kind of have different numbers. Ward 4 is Godnick, which is the town, and this one is the town and the city combined in this ward. But John Rogers, 791 to David Zuckerman's 594. Now, so we'll call them out by name. So this is Calvary, and this has, the page that's on should be up front here. So this has John Rogers with 1,065 to David Zuckerman's 817. And these are all Rutland City.
Yeah.
So interesting, like you said, a lot of variables, like Burlington is a big variable. But just curious and interesting what Rutland City folks are thinking. John Rogers, 870 to David Zuckerman's 691. Wow. And that is Ward American Legion. And then in Rutland City, Christ the King.
That's my district.
Yeah, is Rogers with 1,221 to David Zuckerman's 943. So in Rutland City, in all 4 wards, John Rogers has won by a fairly respectable margin.
Yeah.
We'll just look again real quick and we'll see what Pollitt said about that. Let's see, this is kind of Senate governor. There it is. John Rogers 473 to David Zuckerman's 379. That's Pollitt. Let me see if I can see my picture that I took of the picture and see what
The picture of the picture.
see what Poltney said was, if I got that. Attorney General, looks like we didn't get that. Oh yeah, there it is. No, it looks like I didn't get that. It's at the top of the page. But okay. However, it looks like we just got some more results in. So hang on for a second while we take a look at these. This is Fairhaven. So Fairhaven is in. This is good because this is a
I
western
bet Billy
county.
Canfield won.
Yeah, Bill Canfield
Unopposed.
running unopposed for the state representative out there in Fairhaven. That's a given. But in the state senate, let's go there. Terry K. Williams, actually top vote getter for state senate in the town of Fairhaven, 762 votes, followed by Brian Collmore with 714 votes, followed by David Weeks with 572 votes, then followed by Robert Richards with 459 votes, Marsha Castle with 341 votes, and Dana Peterson with 274 votes. So again, in the town of Fairhaven, for the state senate seats, 3 elected out of 6 candidates tonight. Terry K. Williams, incumbent Republican, 762 votes, followed by Republican incumbent Brian Collmore with 714 votes, followed by the third Republican incumbent, David Weeks, with 572 votes in the town of Fairhaven. And then Robert Richards, 459 votes, the Democratic challenger, along with Democratic challenger Marcia Castle from the town of Rutland. She is 341 votes. And Dana Peterson, Rutland Town Democrat challenger, 274 votes. So that's the town of Fairhaven. And just because we were just talking about it, let's look at that lieutenant governor's race. So it does look like a big swing here in the town of Fairhaven. Whole different ballgame from what we just talked about. David Zuckerman, 433 votes to John Rogers, 107 votes.
Wow, that is a big swing.
Yeah, that's quite a difference there. So, so to your point,
Yeah.
you know, we've got a lot of towns to come in, and it'll vary throughout the night.
Was it like 262 across the state and 55 when I looked at Vermont Public?
Right, yep, exactly. So, but again, you know, the governor with a huge margin,
He expended some of his capital this year. He endorsed a lot of Republicans and some Democrats and some independents across the state. He spent money.
Yeah.
So he did it a lot differently than he's done the last 3 or 4 terms out.
I would point out something on the U.S. Senator, though. Gerald Malloy has beaten in the town of Fairhaven Bernie Sanders, 643 to 610.
Wow.
So there's some. What about independent thinkers out here?
Isn't that an interesting dynamic where Mr. Zuckerman wins, but Senator Sanders doesn't?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's Vermont.
It's Vermont. Exactly.
Like Mark
right.
Candid used to say, we're frugal and we're swift. So rest his soul.
So let's see. What we've got here is the town of Killington. Great. This is great. So we're still coming in pretty quickly, and we appreciate the team here at PEG TV supplying us with all this information.
Yeah.
But we'll hold on to you just for another couple minutes, Greg, while we just look at a couple of these. Because, again, you didn't have a House of Representatives race, the state representative Jim Harrison, the incumbent, 642 votes, unopposed. Jim's back. But let's see. Let's go to this Senate race. So, because this is the most. So it looks like, and it's real fine print, and I've got my bifocals on, luckily. So Brian Collmore with 406 votes, and that would be top vote getter there, followed by, it looks like, David Weeks with 363 votes, and then Marcia Castle is that third vote getter, 326 for Marcia Castle, the Democratic challenger, and this is out of the town of Killington. And then followed by Terry K. Williams and Dana Peterson and Robert Richards. So in that case, the 1, 2, and 3 is Collmore, Weeks, and Castle, followed by Terry Williams. A little interesting change there.
I think that's going to go nip and nip that Senate race with Miss Castle.
Yeah, except Brian Collmore. I think he's, gosh,
OBC.
He's a force, right? Yeah. So that's the town of Killington reporting in. So thank you for giving us that. To our PEG TV, great PEG TV staff. So anyway, I just want to ask you if there's anything else unusual that you heard. You crisscrossed the state. I know you, and one thing I know that you know every parade that goes on all summer long, don't you?
Yeah, you're on my Facebook, right? You and Gail.
Yeah, you.
There's another one.
A lot of parades.
The one thing I will say is at Christ the King, when Tammy and I voted about 6:10, 6:15, there was 2,263 votes cast. Wow. And they were putting in absentees, right, honey? So, that's a lot in the Christ the King district. Usually, I think, total, they're around 1,400 to 1,700.
Yeah, and I believe with the redistricting, that's the largest ward now in the Rutland City. It used to be the one I lived in, which was Skodnick. And now Christ the King.
Yeah.
But let's see. So this is Mount Holly. So this will be interesting because another trend maybe that we can follow. Well, let's see what they were thinking in Mount Holly. Let me go to, okay, so we're going to start with the Senate race. Well, actually, let's start with the state representative because it was mainly 2 people, Adrian Raymond and Kevin Winter. And Kevin Winter wins, it looks like there, at least with, in the town of Mount Holly at least, with 500 votes to Adrian Raymond's 351 votes. So 500 votes for Kevin Winter and 351 votes for Adrian Raymond in the town of Mount Holly. Now we'll go right to the state Senate because we've got a race there with, again, 6 3 Democrats, 3 Republicans running for 3 seats in the Senate in this Rutland County race, 3 of which were Republican incumbents. And it looks like, going back to, well, it looks like this time David Weeks appears to be the top vote getter, and followed by Brian Collmore. So David Weeks with 428 votes, followed by Brian Collmore with 408 votes, and then followed by Terry K. Williams with 378 votes. And then again, Marcia Castle right there in fourth with 349 votes, Marcia Castle, Democratic challenger. And then it looks like then Dana Peterson this time with fifth, and again, Robert Richards sixth. So those top 3, again, David Weeks, Brian Collmore, Terry Williams, and then closely followed by Marcia Castle, and that is Mount Holly for the state Senate race. Anything else of interest? Well, let's just, again, while we're talking to the former Lieutenant Governor candidate, Greg Thayer, let's just talk about that race real quick and see how the race you were in with John Rogers is shaping up here in the town of Mount Holly. Let's see. Here we are. So, well, yeah, John Rogers with 480 votes, and David Zuckerman, the incumbent, progressive and Democrat, well, he's listed on the ballot, 335 votes. So John Rogers 480, David Zuckerman 335. Again, this is this part of Vermont. Who knows what happens when farther north you go?
Yeah,
I think David Zuckerman is from Burlington. So
Northeast Kingdom.
Northeast Kingdom, is that where he's from? Okay.
Oh, Zuckerman, no.
Zuckerman, yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Heinsberg, yeah.
Okay,
He has
yeah.
his farm in Heinsberg, but Mr. Rogers is from the Northeast Kingdom.
Okay, yeah. So they're both from up north compared to us.
Up north
By
compared
far,
to us.
yeah. All right.
Well, I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah,
and getting
thank you,
a chance
Greg.
to talk.
Anything else that you
Nothing really.
heard differently from the
No,
previous 4 guests we've had on?
No, I think, they hit it pretty well on what's going on. I think they've all got a pretty good measure of the temperature of the county and around the state. So,
Yeah,
because we all talk to people, both
Yeah,
sides of the
yeah,
aisle. We talk
yeah.
to people throughout. You talk to people, and especially in your business.
Yeah. It takes me an hour to get a gallon of milk.
I still wanted this guy to be mayor.
Oh, stop. Okay. Thank you, Greg, there for coming.
Thomas, thank you.
We really
Appreciate your time.
having
All
you.
righty.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go back now and see what else we've got here in the pile. It's bound to start slowing down now a little bit, but I want to make sure. Okay, we do have another one here as the town of Mendon, and then it looks like Wells. So Mendon and Wells we have that we'd like to go on to. Real quick, just to see if those trends continue. And we'll look at, just for interest in Mendon, because we were just talking about Lieutenant Governor John Rogers with 410 votes to David Zuckerman's 285 votes. John Rogers for Lieutenant Governor, 410. David Zuckerman, the incumbent, 285 votes. And now we'll go to, let's see, this is Mendon. Again, Jim Harrison with no challenger for the House race. Jim got 600 votes for state representative. So he'll be back with us. And then so here's our state Senate races, and this one's been an interesting one because there is some close races in this. And it looks like, again, Brian Collmore coming in first in the town of Mendon, followed by David Weeks. So Brian Collmore with 430 votes, by the way. David Weeks with 355 votes. And then, again, Marcia Castle now third with 317 votes. Marcia Castle coming in third there. And there's 3 seats, remember. With 6 challengers, and Terry Williams, 6 candidates, I should say. Terry Williams coming in fourth there, closely following with 309 votes. And then followed by Dana Peterson with 218 votes, and Robert Richards with 197 votes. So this is the town of Mendon, contiguous to Rutland Town and Rutland City. Brian Collmore, first place, 430 votes, followed by David Weeks with 355 votes. Then Marcia Castle again, that third spot, 317 votes. And followed by Terry Williams with 309 votes, and then Dana Peterson, 218, and Robert Richards, 197. So that's quite interesting from the town of Mendon. And so now let's go right over to Wells. And this is a little finer print, so we're going to keep drilling down here. And that again was Patty McCoy, Patricia McCoy, unchallenged, and that. So she has 315 votes, but that's a state representative unchallenged. But we do have, it looks like, the Senate races. So let me start numbering them again. And this is Wells, and Terry Williams is the top vote getter coming out of Wells. So Terry Williams is first for that Senate seat with 473 votes. And right behind Terry then is very closely followed. Now, let's see, a couple of close ones coming up. David Weeks with 336 votes. And then that third spot this time goes to Brian Collmore with very closely followed with 332 votes. And then Marcia Castle with 220 votes. Then Robert Richards with 203 votes, and Dana Peterson with 181 votes. So now we're back to the top three again, incumbents, but a little different order. This time, Terry Williams first with 473 votes, David Weeks second with 336 votes, Brian Collmore third with 332 votes, then Marcia Castle with 220 votes, Robert Richards with 203 votes, and Dana Peterson with 161. Now that is the town of Wells. How are you?
I'm well.
Cool. Marcia, yes. So the very close contender here. Marcia Castle is with us, so we're going to have Marcia come on right now. I couldn't quite see you through the lights.
Here we go. Good evening.
Hey, welcome. Yeah,
Welcome.
thanks for
so
coming
much.
in. We really appreciate this.
This is an
is great.
exciting evening.
Well, yeah, because we were just saying, you probably heard me remarking, but we've had some changes in
Some jockeying.
Some
yes.
jockeying. Perfect.
Yes,
That's the
some
word.
jockeying, yes.
That's the word.
And what a nice service for you to provide.
Oh.
So because it's so granular. And we can't get it on the network, so we get it on your network.
Oh, good,
so.
beautiful. Yeah, and it's very
Thank you.
local. It's very local.
Very local, yeah.
But let me ask you, before we get into what you're hearing out there, so these results are, obviously, there's a lot of towns in Rutland County.
Yeah, it's vast.
Did you spend a lot of time in the outlying towns that we haven't heard from yet, for instance, Marcia?
I think we all try. I didn't get to Mount Tabor. And
Okay.
I didn't get to Danby, but tried to
Okay.
get everywhere else.
Yeah.
But it's, you think, oh, we're from such a small area until you try to campaign.
Right,
and then you think,
yeah.
wow, this is
Yeah.
really...
Many years ago, it's a long time, but the late, not somewhat recently passed, Betty Ferraro was a state senator, and I was chair of her campaign, drove her around Rutland County. I was more like the driver. Betty ran her own campaign, you know, she didn't really need me.
You were the facilitator.
Yeah, because Betty was a force, as you recall, if you knew her, and she was a wonderful lady and really represented us very well and very nonpartisan in a way that she could. Always hand wrote back to all her constituents when they had an issue, and she would hand right back to them. But I took her around, and so I'm just kind of
You've seen it from the other side.
Yeah, and agreeing with what you're saying, Marcia, completely. But it sounds like a small area, but boy, when you start
Till
going
you
town to
really,
town,
You
it's
get
a
lost
lot of
in
ground to
places,
cover.
Yeah. I got lost in some beautiful places that and
That's great.
it's easy to door knock when you're in a densely populated area, but
Yeah.
then you need a driver.
Right.
Like Chittenden. Or,
Right. Like the late Hall Maynard used to bring his bicycle, and he'd have it right on the top of the car, and he'd park somewhere on a dirt road, and he'd get the bike down, and then
Yeah.
he'd go house to house on
Because
his
you
bicycle.
get away from your.
Yeah.
I've gotten my steps in too. Yeah. But
But you're feeling good about you're
I
coming in
have-
right behind the
I
incumbents,
am,
and sometimes ahead of them.
as you're saying, we're jockeying.
Yeah.
It's early in the evening,
Right.
and I'm an outsider. I'm a newbie. I'm a first-time candidate. And
Okay, good. Yeah, I didn't know that, so
feeling,
that's-
yeah, never
yeah.
run for office before.
Wow.
ever.
Wow.
So I
Yeah.
think I've had a respectable campaign. It's been great. I've spent a lot of time with the incumbents as we've gone to different events, and have a lot
Great,
of
great.
respect for their service and and who they are. So.
And if you don't mind my asking, was there something that motivated you to decide to run?
You know, I think nothing in particular, a lot of little pieces. I think when I was working with students, I was always teaching civics in action.
Oh, okay,
So
yeah.
after I retired, it seemed like a logical extension of what I have been doing. You know, put
Yeah.
yourself where your words are.
Yeah.
I have been involved in the community in other ways, not in a policy level, but certainly trying to make a difference. So
Yeah. And you don't mind the commute to Montpelier if you're elected?
I don't mind.
Up
You,
Route
if you live in
100,
Vermont, you
107,
need to get
yeah.
used to driving, and that is the least of the obstacles.
Yeah, isn't
there
that
are
the
plenty of
truth?
other things that might be hard to acclimate to, but the drive is not one of them.
Yeah. I want to ask you because hopefully maybe even a little different perspective, but maybe not, because you were out there a lot, obviously, working hard and making your presence known and talking to people. And
Yeah.
what were you hearing consistent things? What's on people's minds, Marcia?
I've heard much of the same thing. Certainly affordability is an issue. People want to be able to be comfortable. They want to be able to enjoy living with their family, retire with dignity and comfort.
Right.
Just because I'm on the other ticket doesn't mean that we're not interested in affordability.
Oh, of course.
At all.
Right. Yeah, I would hope so.
They have been really discontent, not so much with our local politics, but with the general picture of incivility.
Yeah, yeah.
And kind of discouraged by the whole picture.
Yeah.
And really, really eager for people to come together against the problems rather than
Right.
fighting each other.
Wow, that's great. I need to write that
think-
down.
Well, I think that's where my skill set comes in, not only as an educator, but I also do mediation, and I sit with people in conflict, and I'm very comfortable with that. So.
You summed it up really perfectly,
Yeah.
frankly.
I mean, we really do.
Yeah.
Not to do an
Yeah.
us-them. And even now, in campaigning, it's been discouraging that people, candidates included, have already made their mind up about their positions and their perspectives and dug their hate, and it's got to be like, it's this or that.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah.
Without the curiosity of, let's have this conversation again and see if we can end it differently.
Right,
So
right.
I don't know whether I'll have the opportunity to serve, but
Yeah.
that's
Well, you're
what
a
I would do.
contender, so let's.
I am a
let me
contender.
see if
Don't
I
count me out
yeah,
yet.
No, not at all. Not at all. Let me see if there's anything new here that's Wallingford. How about that?
Let's hear
All
from
right.
Wallingford.
All right,
Yeah, let's hear.
This is exciting. Drum roll, please. So we're going to go right to, so let's go right to the state senate races for the town of Wallingford, just south of Rutland City. And again, kind of no surprise, though, is Brian Collmore. He was top vote getter last time. He's being
known. He's
somewhat-
well known.
He certainly is.
And he
you
has
know.
also served
Yeah.
these people.
He
so
has, yeah.
There's
so
some gratitude there.
kudos there. But Brian Collmore with 669 votes, followed by Terry Williams. Followed by David Weeks with 662 votes, followed by Terry Williams with 558 votes, and then followed by Marcia Castle with 483 votes.
Nipping the heels.
Yep,
Yes.
still there. And then Dana Peterson with 416 votes, and Robert Richards with 362 votes. So again, Brian Collmore first with 669, David Weeks 662, Terry Williams 558, and Marcia Castle 483. And I would repeat, although we have some very qualified staff doing this work, and some of this is coming directly from the clerks, but all of this is not official till it's certified, I think, by the Secretary of State's office sometime probably tomorrow. So I just want that one caveat.
And there is a website that people can look at. But I think your intel is getting out faster than the Secretary of State's website.
Well, and here's one for Pittsford, so let's, we'll keep going. And then we can come back. Let me see, let me just see if there's a House race Yeah, because this is the one that actually has that one I was mentioning with Dave Bosch, Tom Burdett, and Dave Potter. And it looks like those three, there's 2 seats. And this is sort of the one that has, gosh, I have my notes here. So let me just go back to it so I get it right. Clarendon, West Rutland, Wallingford, Tinmouth, and Proctor, if I have that right. But this would be the Wallingford segment of that for the state representatives. And right now, Dave Bosch would be first with 674 votes. And then Tom Burdett with 614 votes, and Dave Potter with 581 votes. And this is where Art Peterson has stepped down and opened up a seat. So 2 of those 3 will be elected tonight. And right now, as far as Wallingford weighing in on it, that would be Dave Bosch and Tom Burdett. Now, Pittsford. Going to go to that Senate race. And Brian Collmore, again, with 1,031 votes in the state, in the town
Making
of Pittsford. Wow.
4 digits.
And then Dave Weeks with 924 votes. And Terry Williams with 807 votes. And then Marcia Castle with 566 votes. Dana Peterson with 439 votes, and Robert Richards with 391 votes. So again, the top 3 and 4th, because we want to talk about who's right there out on the bubble, is Brian Collmore, David Weeks, Terry Williams, and Marcia Castle. So still on the bubble, Marcia.
Still on the bubble.
Yeah. But you're ahead in some of the other ones, so we're gonna.
And we'll see.
This has got to sugar off through the whole night.
We haven't heard from Brandon. Anything from Brandon coming
Well,
in?
not yet.
Not yet.
And many years ago, when I was interviewing Wendy Wilton when she was
Oh,
running
yes.
for Senate, and she had told me, because she knew that she lived in the city and kind of expected a certain number of city votes, so she spent all her time in the outlying towns. And she was losing in the city because just the way it worked out, and that she wasn't, I shouldn't say losing, but she was behind by the votes in the city. But she said, wait till later in the night. I spent all my time in the towns. And sure enough, she was right. And every little town that came in, she caught up a little more and a little more and a little more. Till the end of the night, she actually won.
Yeah, and
So-
people can be reassured that their voice matters.
Yes, exactly.
Either
right.
way.
You
but
got to vote.
It does. It does sugar
100%.
up.
Yeah.
Well,
So let me ask you just what else is going on out there that you think that we should, just on the local level? Well, no,
certainly
not so-
housing,
or
but,
national.
but
level.
housing. I mean, I
Yeah.
got to see housing, even existing housing, and
Yeah.
the condition that some
Yeah.
of our housing is in,
Yeah.
and some of the older folks who may be kind of trapped, excuse
Right.
me, in the house that is cumbersome,
Okay.
and in terms of needing all kinds of housing,
Okay.
not just transitional for people coming out of poverty, out of unsheltered,
Sure.
but also maybe our older population
Right.
coming out of family homes that they may feel dearly about,
Right.
but can't keep up, and really, but they don't have any place to go. So it was a up close and personal view
Yeah.
of what's going
Yeah.
on.
Interesting observation there.
Yeah.
And housing
we-
is just such
and
a
as
big
we
deal.
age, that's an issue.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
right, yeah, and the population of the region is
Excuse me.
aging. We're one of the oldest populations in
Yeah.
the state
Yeah.
in Vermont, so,
And housing is certainly something, if we're going to attract folks to come join us,
right.
if not our own children, then other people's.
Right, exactly.
People say, how do we get our kids to stay?
Right.
No kid wants to stay in their hometown, at least initially. They want to go, they want to see the world. Maybe we can
Yeah.
entice them to come back, but there are other folks.
Bring them back after,
Or,
right?
people
Yeah.
from other parts of the country that might feel that Vermont is appealing and that
Yeah.
make it their home. Once they come, they'll know.
It's so funny you say that, because I was filling in a school classroom one day for something. I just asked to be a guest, and I asked them how many are planning on staying, and nobody, I think maybe a hand or two went up.
I didn't stay either. You know, I came to Vermont.
Hey, I've also heard about a new term, what I call a new term anyway, called climate migration.
Yes.
And people are literally looking at Vermont because we don't have wildfires.
But did you
Yeah.
experience how hot it was today?
Yeah.
And everyone was saying this is
finer-
great, except
right.
it should not be 79 degrees in Vermont in November.
Right, a couple of weeks away from, just less 3 weeks away from Thanksgiving.
Just saying.
Yeah,
That, we
Yeah.
can't ignore that. We can't.
Right,
It's going to be a problem that may be painful and requires some sacrifice, but it is derelict.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
and our parents
Yeah.
ignored it for 50 years.
Yeah.
The bill has come due.
yeah, yeah.
And today was proof.
And we just do our little part, but Gail and I both have electric cars and all
for
electric
you.
power tools,
Uh-huh.
lawnmower, everything's, and I love them, I just have to say. And I
Well, good
feel,
for you.
yeah, and I literally feel healthier operating them, just staying away from
And
the
you don't have
fumes
the noise,
and
yeah.
the noise. Absolutely, yeah.
But
I'm sure it doesn't make much of a dent, but I feel good about it.
it makes a difference. Just like everybody's vote difference, everybody's
Yeah.
behavior is
Yeah.
going to make a difference.
Yeah.
And today was a reminder, as lovely as it was not to be shivering out on the polling places.
True, just for today.
It
right,
was
yeah.
unnaturally warm.
Yeah. And we have the
So-
World Cup coming up at Killington. and,
Hopefully.
You want to have those things happen. Absolutely. Yeah.
We want to have
So-
apples, we want to have maple syrup, we want to have snow, we want to have crops.
Foliage.
I don't want mosquitoes all year. I don't want tick-borne diseases, so,
Right.
we need to deal with
Ditto
that.
and ditto,
So-
yeah.
So if you ask me what I hear, if I
Yeah.
talk to people that are younger,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everybody's concerned, but people who are going to have this as a legacy are very concerned about it.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's interesting that that folks are finding Vermont to be the place one of the places that they're retreating to because of the climate changes that they're experiencing and they're across the country. And while we've had some really bizarre flooding, but it's still, snowstorms seem like a breeze compared to these rising tides and tidal,
Wow.
the waves coming in from the hurricanes.
We are
and
not the
flooding
only people
out
who have
in
been
massive
flooded.
ways.
You look at Spain this week or this month, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
everywhere.
But hurricanes and tornadoes
We don't
and
have
wildfires. Yeah, occasional,
Yeah.
just keep it interesting.
Yeah. So.
Well, Marcia, good
It
luck
was a
tonight.
pleasure.
Yeah, we'll see
Thank
what
you
happens.
for
Hang
inviting
in
me.
there.
Thank you for
Got-
the service that you're providing
Well,
for the
appreciate
local
it.
community.
Thank you so
It's-
much for coming
yeah,
in
it's
and
great.
taking the time. We really do appreciate
Appreciate
that.
it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. And I
So-
actually have another one of the candidates, Dana Peterson, is here.
Awesome,
So we're going to
great.
bring
All right,
David on
all
now.
right,
So
thanks.
Thanks
Good night.
again, Marcia.
Thanks.
Yeah, excellent. So I would like to invite Dana Peterson to follow Marcia's act there and come on and tell us what you've been hearing. And another candidate for Senate on the Democratic ticket who is from Rutland Town. Is that right, Dana?
That's correct.
Yeah, yeah. So
Good evening.
welcome, Dana Peterson. Good to have you on. Yeah, thank you so much for coming in. And very
thanks
nice to have
to
Marcia
PEG
Castle
TV for-
come in.
yeah,
That was great.
for inviting us.
And she had some interesting perspectives. I've been asking everybody, what are you hearing out there, when
Yep.
you're running for office? And first of all, I want to say again to these candidates, all of which have been on the show tonight, and those of you that might be watching, thank you for running. It's so hard to put your name on the ballot. It sounds easy. It's not easy. Not everybody wants to get off the couch and do what these people are doing, so I respect all of them for running for these offices and giving us choices and having different perspectives on the issues and then listening to all of us while we talk to them. So thank you,
Well, thank you,
Dana,
Tom.
and all your predecessors on the show tonight and those watching that may not have made it over to PEG TV. Appreciate what you're doing by giving us choices on the ballot. And
Well, thanks.
but I know you got out there, and I know that you might have some perspective on some of the top issues for Vermonters, for Rutland County residents. Marcia had brought one up that I hadn't heard before, but I agree with her about the housing stock.
Yes.
Not just transitional housing with our homelessness issue, but people that have been in their homes a long time, that the homes have aged, people have aged, and some of the houses are maybe not adequate any longer, and you need all types of housing. That was an interesting
Absolutely.
perspective that she shared.
Yeah, I sit on the Rutland Town Planning Commission, Tom,
Okay,
and I've been on that for several years. And that's one of the things that we're looking into right now as Planning Commissioners, the existing housing stock and how it's distributed.
Great.
Because we're finding something very similar with respect to the housing that's available.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things that I've come across is that Rutland County has the oldest housing stock in in the entire state.
In the entire state.
And
Okay.
for weatherization purposes, and I know that Brock does a very good job with weatherization, so kudos to you and your team. The weatherization needs in Rutland County in particular are huge. And so dealing with housing stock that is aging
Yes.
and that puts a drain in terms of energy burden.
Right.
And in Rutland County also has the highest energy burden per capita of all of the towns. We're several percentage points above the
Rutland
average.
County, wow.
And
Yeah.
so the work that people are doing to mitigate that, I think,
Right.
is extremely important.
Right.
One, from a perspective of housing security. Two, from a perspective of energy burden, which can actually reduce the energy burden that people are feeling because energy costs disproportionately impact lower income folks.
Right,
And that's
right.
really something that has to be addressed with respect to the aging population. They may have houses that, or properties
Yeah.
that are getting too much for them to be able to manage. And so that's
Yeah.
something that needs to be.
Good point in the last two.
Yeah. Addressed. So that's something that I've heard quite a bit over the last
And it all
several
impacts
months.
the budget and the family
Oh,
budget.
absolutely.
Yeah,
And, working with families to be able to help them understand their budgets and be able to manage things is really critical. And being able to help people identify ways to save money. And I heard you
Right.
talking earlier with Marcia about the investment in electric vehicles. That's a great
Yeah,
way
yeah.
to help save on repair costs and so on and so
Right.
forth. Affordability.
Yeah, and affordability seems to be a theme tonight. I'm sure
Yes.
that that's consistent with you too, that you're hearing that.
Absolutely.
And just, because the different measures between how the economy's doing and then how everybody else is doing, sort of maybe that don't have, maybe they don't have 401ks, I don't know.
It's how you participate in the economy, Tom.
Yeah.
And that's
Good way to put it.
really the key,
Yeah.
the key thing. And not everybody participates in an equal way. Not everybody is able to participate
Yeah,
in
yeah.
in an equitable way. So
Right.
that's
So
the
I
key
think a
thing.
lot of people are really feeling the burden and the pinch.
Yes, just like the energy burden, just like the housing
Yeah,
burden.
exactly.
It-
Hang on,
Sure.
stay with us, because
Absolutely.
I just want to go over, it looks like we have, on that, by the way, that question one on the redevelopment authority board, changing up the board a little bit, how they're appointed and who's appointed, is an absolute yes in Rutland City, with all four awards coming in at 4,699 for yes on that, which is, the voters have spoken. That board will change up a little bit the way it's appointed and the makeup of the board, with just 1,454 no. So that's those four awards. I did have, Marcia was just asking about Brandon, so, and she's still here, good. So Marcia, we got Brandon, and let me just go right to it. We're gonna just cut right to the chase, because we have a House race there, but I'm gonna go over the Senate race first, because we gotta look at these. So it looks like some big numbers again for Brian Collmore, with 1,178 votes in the town of Brandon for Brian Collmore, Senator Collmore. David Weeks with 1,128 votes for David Weeks. And then Terry Williams with 995 votes for that third seat. And closely followed by Marcia Castle with 891 votes. So, and then Dana, you're right there with 786 votes in the town of Brandon,
There we go.
and 717 votes for Robert Richards. So again, those top three, Brian Collmore, David Weeks, and Terry Williams, very closely followed by Marcia Castle with 891 votes. And then again, Dana Peterson with a respectable 786 votes, followed by Robert Richards with 717 votes. And that's the town of Brandon. So now we're talking about a northern town in the county of Rutland. And then incumbent Stephanie Zach Jerome, the Democratic incumbent up in Brandon, in this, and I'm trying to remember if this is the only town in this, and I almost think it is in Brandon, but Stephanie with 1,056 votes, but it appears the challenger, Todd Nilsson, appears to have 1,258 votes. So Stephanie may have been defeated if this is the only town in that district, Brandon, but I'm not 100% sure it is. Todd Nielsen with 1,258 votes, Stephanie Zach Jerome with 1,056 votes. She is the incumbent in that House race, and this is the town of Brandon. Let me just look, Dana, while I'm right here, and see if there's anything else that they had going on in Brandon on the ballot. Rutland City just had that one ballot item.
Right.
But I think, as we were talking earlier to Greg Thayer, the lieutenant governor's race is one of interest. And again, Vermont is speaking out, it appears, at least Rutland County, in the lieutenant governor's race, and it may vary dramatically when we look north. But for now, John Rogers leading with, and this is Brandon again, 1,268 votes to David Zuckerman's 952. So at least down south here in Vermont, John Rogers is beating the incumbent Lieutenant Governor David Zuckerman pretty significantly. But again, northern votes will probably matter in this race. And
Always does. It's
turn the tide
statewide
there.
election.
And then let me just go back, because they had some tallies where they've kind of just tallied up Rutland City, and we'll continue to wait for some smaller towns to come in, which will make a difference as the night goes on. But it looks like in Calvary, let's see, yeah, this is Calvary, and this is the House race, actually. Christopher Howland with 700 and, no, that can't be, no, that wouldn't be Calvary. So it should be Godnick, but Chris, if this is right, Chris Howland 741, Anatadio 708. I think those numbers were correct, and the ward should be Godnick. I'm just going to write that in there. Eric McGuire is over at Christ the King ward, and he was unopposed, 754. So here is, again, this is Mary Howard and Cindy Laskovich. Mary Howard with 849 votes, and Cindy Laskovich with 802 votes. So that is apparently a final tally with Mary Howard retaining her seat. But it does look like William Knott has been defeated. He was the incumbent running with the challenger Chris Keyser. Chris Keyser getting 1,157 votes, and William Knott getting 837 votes. So you may have a change in that ward in Rutland City, with what appears to be Keyser winning by a significant margin. The percentages look like something like 58% for Keyser and 42% for Knott. And then closer races, even though, because this one, I want to note Chris Howland with 51% of the vote to Anatadio's 49% of the vote. That's just Rutland City. So I'm going to keep pointing that out, because this is the one ward that the city shares with the town of Rutland. And so we can't call this race for Howland with 741 votes to 708. 741 for Howland, Taddeo with 708. We can't call that until we see what the town of Rutland has to say about that. And then the wrap-up numbers, it appears in total for the Senate race with Brian Collmore at 4,260 in Rutland City, and David Weeks with 3,367, with Terry Williams with 3,075, and then again, oh, I'm sorry, let me recant that. Marcia Castle, I should say, the same percentage, 17%, but the numbers are different. Marcia Castle actually has 3,114 votes in Rutland City. So she is actually third, with Terry Williams fourth with 3,075 votes. Dana Peterson with 2,413 votes, and Robert Richards with 2,077 votes. And that's the Rutland City tally for the 4 wards, which does not, again, include Rutland Town in that Godnick ward, which is the only exception, but it does tally the Godnick ward. So again, Brian Collmore, David Weeks, Marcia Castle, and Terry Williams, your top 4 right there. So that's an interesting total for the city wards. And of course, it's always subject to what do the other towns say, because there's so many of them. And we've got a handful of them that have come in, but so many more that are still out there. And they can change numbers dramatically depending on where you are in the county and what people had to say in their town.
That's
so
right.
Everybody exercised their right to vote. So let me ask you that one, Dana,
Sure.
too. Did you have the same impression that there was a huge turnout?
I did. And I think that that's good. It shows that people are interested and people want to express their opinion and that they have choice. And like you were saying earlier, people need to be heard. People need to have an opportunity to express themselves through whichever candidate they find to be speaking to them. And I think that in Rutland County, there are some very quality candidates among all of the folks that have been participating.
I agree with that.
Absolutely.
And the other part of that, the other dynamic there, the mail-in,
Yep.
or
Large percentage.
well, we used to call absentee, but now it's just not really absentee. It's really just a mail-in ballot. You can just make a choice now.
Anticipated. That's
Yeah.
what the French call it. The
Yeah.
French call it anticipated voting. And,
Okay.
and that's a great way
I like
to
it.
think about it. So it allows people's voice to be heard in a way that allows the civic participation to be personalized.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's not subject to shifts when people are working or
Right.
being away and having to request an absentee ballot. People
Right.
will get it. They can fill it out and send it in the comfort of their own home. They can actually
Right.
do the research, and I think that makes the participatory process that much stronger, and
Yeah.
it almost brings us back to town meeting
Yeah.
when people were sitting down and debating the issues. And so for me, I see that as
Good way to
as
put it.
coming full circle
Yeah.
and inviting that participation, and that's a wonderful way to teach civic lessons to our young people,
Yeah.
to keep them engaged and to get them engaged and to keep them engaged.
Yeah, it's a little
very
more
important.
along the town meeting kind of a
Theme, yeah.
theme, if you will, of process, because there is more discussion and debate about it, because you have time to think about it. You hear the issues, you hear the candidates, but it's all in one place when you get to the ballot. And before, when you're walking in, it's
Yep.
all there in front of you, and it kind of throws up on you. You got to sit there and kind of crank through it, where your point, and well taken, is you have time to really talk about it, think about it, look
Right.
it over well in advance. My
And
ballot
you can
came
discuss. You can look when you see the ballot come out. You can say, okay, I want to know a little bit more about this person. Or
Yeah.
how can I get more information? And then we have the forums that have been available to voters across the county, and
Yeah.
people can come out and participate. They can submit questions, and that's just a great way to keep the entire community engaged. So I think it's been a wonderful process. So for a first-time person. It's been unique.
Great
and it's been
experience, yeah.
A good experience.
You're kind of well known anyway, I'm finding.
Well,
So,
I try to keep a low
your
profile, but
your positive reputation precedes you.
well,
Yeah,
thank you, Tom.
yeah.
I appreciate that.
No, just to follow up though on that other dynamic when we're talking about the mail-in ballot and so forth. Did you hear though that there was a lot of people who actually took advantage of that?
I did not.
Okay.
In fact, I heard something just the opposite. There were some
interesting.
folks who were reporting that they have children who moved out of state just recently.
Okay.
Not a change that would have occurred for the in time for the ballots to be mailed out, and people
Okay.
were returning those on behalf of children or other relatives
Okay.
that were no longer living in the household.
I see.
So I found in at least here in Vermont and
Right.
our little communities,
Yeah.
That people are honest. And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think that
yeah,
that is
that's great. That's
that's
awesome.
the cornerstone of our
Yeah,
democracy.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
honesty, integrity.
Love it.
Trust, respect, and belief in what we do and having integrity for that.
Right.
So I applaud all of the voters of
Yeah.
Vermont and particularly Rutland County for their engagement and their civic mindedness.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful thing.
That's awesome. Well, I think on that note, I'm going to take a break.
Great.
Yeah, but I want to thank you very much, Dana Peterson, and also thank you, as I have other candidates, for putting your name on the ballot. And, not everybody's willing to get off the couch, and I don't blame them.
It's a difficult road.
Yeah,
So, if anybody tells you differently, then they're pulling the wool over your eyes.
Yeah.
But, to do this and do it well it requires time, energy, and commitment.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And that is something that all civic-minded individuals should contemplate. It is a labor of love and truly a service to the public. And regardless of the outcome, I think everybody is well served by those who throw their hat in the ring and put themselves out there to help debate and discuss the issues.
Exactly. You know, and it's just, I'm very I'm always so humbled by everybody who does put their name on the ballot, no matter what stripe, no matter what their positions. You know, the fact that you're willing to stick your neck out there, if you will, you know, and do it,
And be vulnerable.
is impressive. You
That's
know,
right.
so I want to thank you personally as well. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Tom.
I'm sure we haven't seen the last of you. So.
Well, we'll see about that. But thanks so much, Tom.
Dana Peterson,
Take care.
ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. The candidate for County Senate, along with Marcia following Marcia Castle, who is here in the studio. We appreciate both of them coming in tonight in person to speak with you as the votes and the tallies unfold throughout the county tonight. These two are both doing their civic duty too by putting their names on the ballot, as I just mentioned, and all the other candidates that are out there that may not have had a chance to stop in our great studios here at PEG TV. We want to thank all of you for getting your names on the ballot and giving everybody a choice, and for doing the campaigning, as Dana just indicated, what it's like to have to be out there and actually putting yourself out there physically and crisscrossing the county, or in Greg Thayer's case, crisscrossing the entire state of Vermont probably about 10 times. So what we're going to do now, because I don't have any new results, we're just going to take a little break, wait to see if we've got some smaller towns coming in so that we can see if there's any change in these trends, and then we'll get right back to you with those local results as soon as possible. So in the meantime, I'm Tom Donahue, your host for Live Election Night coverage. We'll be back with you shortly. Thanks for staying tuned, and Live Election Night coverage will be returning shortly. Hi, I'm Tom Donahue, still your host for live election night coverage at PEG TV. Thanks for tuning in. We're trying to get results in from the small towns tonight, and they have trickled in earlier, but nothing as of late. But I do have a very special guest on the program right now, State Representative Mary Howard. Mary, welcome to
Thank
PEG
you.
TV's live election night coverage.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, and officially, I'm going to go ahead and congratulate you for being reelected to the House of Representatives, representing Rutland Ward 6, which used to be 5-3.
Correct.
Not to be too confusing, but we have redistricted with the change in population, and you're now representing what we call Ward 6.
Yes.
But you had 849 votes in that ward, and Cindy Leskovich, which I always have the hardest time with, and I think Cindy forgives me, Leskovich, with 802 votes. But you were out there, obviously, in your greater neighborhood. Ours is a little different. When you get out into the smaller towns, there's more distance between houses.
Sure.
But we've got the dense population, and you're doing a lot of door-to-door, I'm sure. And I did want to ask you, consistent with what I've asked the other guests tonight, what you were hearing by your constituents and others that you may have run across during the campaign.
It's always such a good experience to go door to door and meet with the people and give them a chance to ask questions and actually meet the candidate in person. I really enjoy that. I think that's the best part of campaigning. And many of my constituents are concerned about housing, affordable care.
And Marcia Castle, by the way, the Senate candidate, had mentioned housing as well. That she was hearing that as well, and
Yes.
countywide,
Yes. And I sit on the General Housing Committee, and it's just been housing, and we are doing our best. Childcare, senior housing.
So I'm glad you said childcare, because that's another one that was not mentioned tonight, but I know is a big deal.
It is. It is.
Or lack thereof.
I was so blessed because when I had my children, I was able to stay home with them, and it was the best time. The joy when they get off the school bus and run into the house and
Exactly.
are so excited.
Right.
So, but today
Right.
it's impossible.
Yeah.
It's impossible for parents to not be working.
Yeah.
In the housing area, I have noticed many empty houses, and I'm grateful for the subsidy that we've been given to try and revitalize these homes and
Right,
get
right.
people into homes.
Right, to encourage that redevelopment of those, because there is.
Yes.
Yeah, I can think of one right now, right on a corner. I won't single it out, but I can think of one right now that's just.
Oh,
sitting
there are so many
Yeah.
homes in my campaigning going door to door. There were empty homes just
Wow.
about on every street.
Yeah, wow.
And
That's a great point. Yeah.
in order to get people to come to live here, we need to have housing.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to highlight something you said, because I think it was, a salient point when you talk about, and now I'm talking about the other side of this, being a voter, and when you get to meet the candidate in person. Your point you made there is an important one. It does matter, and it is good when you're a voter to actually meet. So you see your face maybe in an advertisement, maybe in social media. You definitely get a mailer, and it's great. And nice pictures of our candidates, but nothing better than when you actually can meet the candidate.
Oh, there's nothing better than person to person, for sure. Several of one home that I knocked on the door, the woman that answered the door had the ballot in her hand.
Wow.
And she said, "Oh, I'm good." I said, "Perfect timing, perfect timing." Yes,
That's a great story.
it's always better,
That's awesome.
person
Yeah.
to person, for sure. Yeah.
Years and years ago, when I was doing tax appeals for the city as a justice of the peace, and I had, you always have to go out as a group of 3, And Mayor Daley had actually participated that year because he is a member of the Board of Civil Authority by being mayor. And we got to the house, and the mayor was going to be part of that team of 3. They go to this house. And we got there, and I think I actually was filling in for him. That's what happens if one can't make it, another comes in.
Sure.
And then you got your 3. You have to have the 3. And so I think I might have been filling in for Mayor Daley on that one. And I got to the door, and the person had opened it and saw the 3 of us, and we announced what we were there for. They knew we were coming. And then said, "But where's the mayor?"
Yes.
Yeah, very disappointed because they
Yes.
wanted to see him in person.
I can't tell you the number of people who have said to me, "You came to my door, and I didn't forget that."
Awesome.
It's like you have to make people feel valued
Yeah, yeah.
and involved.
And
And,
taking the time to meet them does that.
Taking that time is so rewarding. I just enjoyed it so much. I really did.
Now, did you have a chance to talk to Cindy Leskovich much and about her campaign or the issues she was running on?
No, I haven't. We did speak today. We had
Okay,
great
good.
conversations
Yeah,
today,
yeah,
and
great.
our team members interacted together. It was a good campaign.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that's always good to hear, too. That's a great thing about the local
Of
elections,
course.
you know.
Yes.
A little less of that.
Yes.
We've got enough of that on the
Yes.
national level, which,
Right.
you know.
True. We can't all agree on the same issues. How boring would that be? You know, and
That's right.
so it's good to kind of collaborate and come to a
Absolutely. Yeah.
conclusion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I should know this, but what term is this for? Will this be for you?
This will be my 5th term.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. I
Thank you.
actually wouldn't have guessed that.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
It goes by fast.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I always, I have to admit, after all the years of going up to sort of lobby in the State House for various things for Rutland and so forth, I'm not crazy about the drive, but
No, the drive is not the best. At times, it's a beautiful drive,
yeah.
and it's very soothing, but going over
Yeah.
the mountain
107 is-
sometimes,
yeah.
because it can be beautiful here weather, and you get to
Yeah.
Killington, and it's snowing like crazy.
Now, what are you finding when it comes to advocates for, well, specifically who you're advocating for? I know you're a statewide representative, though, even though you're elected locally, but you're representing Rutland, and you know, do you find that there's collaboration and support for Rutland in the State House?
I know a number of people have said to me, you know, Montpelier has forgotten about Rutland, but you know, we are there day after day fighting for Rutland. And we definitely make our voices heard, and
good,
they know. And Rutland is a wonderful place. The best thing about Rutland is its people.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Always
if
has been.
there's a need in Rutland, everyone gathers together.
Yeah,
I mean, look
yeah.
at the blood drive, look at the stuff of us.
Yeah.
I mean, yes.
Right, stuff about this, the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th, I think it is, which, well, anyway, it's this coming, we're live, so we can say this, it's not going to be recorded later, and we'll miss it, but this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and I always love that because it not only neighbor helping neighbor, but it also, to me, feels like the beginning of the holiday season, and I do love
Yes.
the holiday season.
Yes.
So,
Sure.
I have to highlight, and you know I was going to do this, but
Uh-oh.
it was so long that we wanted to get what's still called, it's the Edson, but Memorial Bridge, but I still call it River Street Bridge. Sorry, I'm an old timer here. You got that funding that got that paved, and I think you actually worked in collaboration with now the late, unfortunately, Kurt McCormick, who was an old friend. But I always have to highlight that because that was the worst bridge ever, and I want to thank you for actually advocating and putting your foot down eventually to say, okay, we need to get this done.
It was not easy. I started here with talking to the mayor about it, and then it's a state issue, it's a state bridge. So I spoke to as many people as I could, and I knew Kurt McCormick, and he was the chair of the Transportation Committee. And I explained the situation, how dangerous that bridge was
No
with
kidding.
the potholes. And he said to me, have the mayor send someone down and take pictures. I contacted the mayor, the pictures were taken, they were sent.
And that was Mayor Allaire at the time.
Yes, and the pictures were sent in, and I kept checking with
Yeah. Kurt.
Chair McCormick
Yeah,
about
yeah.
the bridge.
Yeah.
And one day I was going down the stairs at the State House, and I turned and I said, the bridge. And he said, Mary, the bridge is going to be paved. And I said, when? And he said, this summer. Well, the summer started, and then we were in the middle of the summer. And I again said to him, it's the middle of the summer, and I don't see any
Tick-tock,
bridge
right?
repair.
Yeah.
2 days later, I was avoiding the bridge, as many people did, and I saw them paving that bridge. I stopped the car, I got out, I spoke to one of the workers, and I can't tell you how important that was to get that done. People have said to me, thank you so much. I said, thank Kurt McCormick.
Yeah.
Representative Kurt McCormick, he worked with me, he did it.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
very proud of that. I'm so proud of it. Every time I go over that River Street Bridge, I say,
Yeah.
thank you. And
Yeah.
people have said to me, thank you so much.
It's
Even
a-
the worker said to me, you know, I live out of town, I go over this bridge all the time, and he said, I've been avoiding it, and it's
Right.
beautiful now. So thank you
And-
for bringing that
Yeah,
up.
because it's not insignificant. And as my old, good dear friend, the late Joe Giancola used to say, I'm the Italian from over the bridge. Well, and what he's referring to, of course, is there's sections of the city that are literally divided by that
Yes.
bridge, and it is the connector, you know.
It
and,
is.
And when
It
it was as bad
truly
shape as it
is.
was, that it takes somebody to
Oh,
put their
yes.
foot down to say, we need to get this done for Rutland.
And
And I
I-
appreciate that you did that.
Yeah, I said to Kurt, I tell everyone when we talk about the bridge that it was thanks to your help. And he said, no, Mary, it was your persistence. So I hope my constituents know that I can be persistent. And so if there's an issue,
Right.
I'm there for
Case in
them.
point, exactly, right. And I, from work, I walk that way on lunch hour, and I was just walking up it today, admiring it again, because I try to get my cardio in by doing a little elevation gain, going
Oh,
up
yes.
the bridge. I call it the
Yes.
bridge walk, and then back down again. And so I was looking at it again today, and it came to mind. That's why I brought it up.
Thank
But
you.
listen, thank you very much. I appreciate your efforts in Montpelier, and appreciate,
Well,
the
thank
nice
you.
connection to Rutland that you bring to your constituents and the State House.
It's truly an honor for me, and I'm so humbled that my constituents have placed their trust in me, and I do try to make contact with them and really work hard for them.
Well, and returned to a fifth term, so congratulations.
Thank
And,
you.
And by the way,
Thank
great
you.
sweater. So,
Thank you.
and we want to thank Mary Howard for being on the program tonight from Rutland District, what we're calling Rutland Ward 6 now, which is now changed from when we redistrict from 5-3 with the redistricting, which is something that goes on occasionally as the population, basically based on the census, just to let people know why that occurs. And if population goes up or down, the state is then redistricted regarding their wards and the representation. Unfortunately, the city's population had gone down, and so we still ended up with 4 representatives, Mary Howard retaining her seat and being reelected tonight to one of those 4 seats that representing us in Montpelier. The other we now share with the town of Rutland. And while we don't have the final on that race yet, because we have one district, which is the Godnick district with Chris Christopher Howland leading in that race, 741 votes to Anna Taddeo's 708 votes, but that is just the city, and that's with this redistricting, the one ward that we share, and we share it with the town of Rutland. So we don't have the town of Rutland tallies to add to this to see who actually won that race. And I don't know if it's a factor that Christopher Howland lives in the town and Anna Taddeo lives in the city. It may or may not factor into the vote tally before we're done here tonight, but we may not get that to be able to give you those results. But in the other 3 wards, Eric McGuire was unchallenged in his ward, which is voting at Christ the King. We mentioned Mary Howard winning in her ward against Cindy Leskovich, and then kind of a newcomer to local politics, although his father was governor of the state of Vermont, Chris Keyser is beaten by a significant margin William Knott, the incumbent in that ward, 1,157 votes to 837, so it was some 58% to 42% of the vote for Chris Keyser. So he'll be going and representing us in Montpelier as one of our representatives. So at this point, if we don't have anything new, I think we're going to probably wrap it up, but I did want to find a list of those to think, and that's here somewhere, and that may take, by the time I find that, we may have some more results in. I don't know. But obviously, we expect it will be a long night for the national elections. We may not even know some finals till morning or maybe even Wednesday day. But in the meantime, this gave you a pretty good flavor of what's going on in the county races. And of course, again, in the statewide races, there really wasn't too much differentiation in these races when you see the trends regarding United States Senator Bernie Sanders, Congresswoman Becca Balint, Governor Phil Scott. Those seem pretty solidly nailed down, so I don't think you'll see any changes statewide that we didn't see here in Rutland County. I think this reflects the statewide vote on those. So it really comes down to just House races and then the Senate seats. And again, we don't have the final tallies for the Senate seats, but I will just reiterate one more time where we stand with the city on those races, which gives you kind of an idea. And they were a little bit different town by town, but generally it looks like 3 seats available with 6 candidates running. And I'm just going to tell you what we're waiting to see when all of the towns report in. Brian Collmore appears that he would be likely the top vote getter in the city, 4,260 votes. David Weeks in the city, 3,367 votes. Marcia Castle in the city, third with 3,114 votes, and David Weeks, Terry Williams with 3,075 votes. That's their top 4. So that's the one that's shifting around a little bit. So we won't know the final. But Marcia Castle being that 4th, who's the Democratic, actually newcomer, as she was on the program tonight, mentioned, first time in politics per se. And so she's done well as a newcomer to this. She's a Democratic challenger to the 3 Republican incumbents. And so it seems to be the 3 Republican incumbents and Marcia Castle, the new Democratic challenger, as that 4th coming in is indicated here in the city, 3rd, that we'll need to see all of the towns in before we can call that race. With the exception maybe of Brian Collmore, who just seems to have a significant margin, as he did last time he ran too, so it's consistent. But that would be, again, Brian Collmore and David Weeks and Terry Williams, the incumbents, and then see how Marcia Castle does in the so many outlying towns as the challenger that's right on their heels. So exciting, and we really like a good race and appreciate all of them again, and all of you candidates out there statewide putting your names on the ballots. I should also thank the clerks that are out there doing all this hard work today, the clerks and their assistant clerks and so forth. do want to thank all of you, of course, for getting out and voting today. Huge turnout is what everybody said. And we do think that the mail-in ballots also added significantly to that. A lot of people took advantage of the opportunity to vote with their mail-in ballot. And though turning out on Election Day, of course, the weather was nice and that helps, but a lot of people turning out actually at the polls as well in the county and probably in the state from what I'm hearing as well. So that's exciting for Vermont, exciting for the nation. The thank you list, though, for all of the people who helped and worked on this tonight. Tom Leopold, the executive director here at PEG TV, just does a great job, and we really appreciate Tom. And then people behind the scenes taking numbers that end up here. Nancy Donahue has been doing that tonight, as well as Chelsea Vogel and Rich Alnicki, who actually is helping produce this program tonight. Jim Boughton, well known in the area. William Chmielewski is here and has been out. Some of these folks went out to the polls too, like Greg McCormick. Brother Chris, I think, might be watching us tonight from New Hampshire. And formerly would be here calculating these numbers. Stephen Wilson getting numbers out there tonight, as well as Chris Donahue also getting right out there to the polls to get some of these early results. So we really appreciate that team behind the scenes that work with me on the camera to make all of this come together for what I consider some tremendous local live election night coverage. We wish we had more outlying towns so we could quantify some of this for you and give you some better results, but hopefully we made a few announcements tonight. We had the mayor on and announcing his intention to run for re-election, so there was some breaking news there too. But we do really, really appreciate all the effort that goes into making Election Day happen. It's a big deal. You've made your voices heard, and we'll have some final results for you. Eventually, unfortunately, we can't control the counts that are going on out there. We do want to make sure they're accurate. So this is what we've got to give you tonight at this point. And with that, I guess I'll go ahead and wrap it up for live election night coverage here from PEG TV in Rutland County this evening. But we really do sincerely want to thank you for tuning in. And we, again, thank you for voting. With that, I'm your host, Tom Donahue, and we will see you soon.